Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom, brothers and sisters. Giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Yisrael of the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. This particular presentation is not intended to be long. It is 29 slides, and brothers and sisters, it is in due honor of the Most High that this is presented. My name, as stated, is More. The word More meaning teacher. Yeshaya meaning Yah is salvation. Ben meaning son of. Dan said in Hebrew as Dan meaning judge. The presentation will be about the books, all 12 of them, and the chains with the YouTube channels. For those who have subscribed, I appreciate the support. For those who have purchased the books, I appreciate the support. Let us go on, brothers and sisters, to the next slide. Introduction regarding the books. Shalom. There is, in giving honor to the Most High, 12 books a brother has written. We will show those books in this short presentation. These books were written and published between the years 2016 and 2021. It is only due to the glory of the Creator that these books were able to be written. Next slide. Hebrew is Easy, Volume 1. This book discusses the Hebrew alphabet and the vowels. This book explains the easiness of how to read Hebrew. When the letters and vowels are understood, one can read Hebrew. This book too explains how a regular verb, shamar, is conjugated in the qual, said by some as qal stem. So brothers and sisters, the qual stem is the first stem in the Hebrew verb system. And this book here touches on that by dealing with the word shamar. The word shamar, brothers and sisters, in Hebrew means to watch, to guard, to keep, or to observe. So that's what we want to point out, brothers and sisters, in this particular case. All right? Let us go on into the next part. Hebrew is Easy, Volume 2. This book explains that one should learn the vocabulary one uses in English to get a good understanding in Hebrew. So what do I mean by that? What that means basically is if a person is into, say, cleaning as a hobby or a passion, the word for clean, as in I am cleaning something, is the word tiher, which also means to purify. So you will want to know how to say I am cleaning. Ani mitaher. You will want to know how to say I cleaned. Tiharati. You will want to know how to say we will clean. Nitaher. You will want to know, brothers and sisters, how to say the thing is cleansed. So these are things, brothers and sisters, that we want to go over in that particular book. This book explains the prefixes, the suffixes, prepositions, and grammar. Prepositions such as the prefix of the lamed in front of a word and what it means. The prefix of the letter mem in front of a word and what it means. The prefix of the letter kaf in front of a word and what it means. The prefix of the letter nun and what it means. Grammar, such as sentence structure. The fact that the adjective follows the noun in Hebrew. The fact that you would say, ani tob, meaning I am good. The way you would say, for instance, ha'ish, the man. Ha'ish hazeh, this man. As opposed to just saying ze ish, this is a man. Brothers and sisters, this kind of thing gets into the grammar in this particular book. Now, the letter Hey that you see in front of it, brothers and sisters, I had that put there because it shows the feminine aspect. This book here gets into the masculine and feminine of the language itself. So let us continue on for edification purposes. Hebrew is Easy, Volume 3. This book explains how the verb qual, meaning easy, is an iron verb, meaning the second and third root letter is the same. This book too explains how the qual stem functions in the past, present, and future tense, and what is called regular and irregular verbs. Now, for those who have ever heard me teach upon the subject, I don't particularly care for the terminology, quote, irregular verbs, because since it is our language, nothing of it is irregular. It just, for the lack of a better term, is what it is. All right. So we want to emphasize that for edification purposes. Okay. This book too explains, okay, how the qual stem functions in the past. All right. So for instance, take the verb for instance, shamar, for instance. Shamarti, I watched. Ani shomer, I am watching. Ishmar, I will watch. And that's what this book gets into. Take the verb, for instance, rats, meaning to run. Ratsti, I ran. Ani rats, I am running. Arutz, I will run. So those are the kind of things that this particular book gets into for edification purposes. Next slide. Thank you. Hebrew is Easy, Volume 4. This book explains how the nouns function when showing possession. When a noun is shown as saying mine, yours, his, hers, theirs. When the noun is singular and plural, both in the masculine and feminine nouns. Okay, so you would take, for instance, the noun sus. The word sus means horse. Susi, my horse. Take the word susa, meaning mare, M-A-R-E, which is a female horse. Susati means my mare or my female horse. Take the word susim, meaning horses. The way to say my horses is susai. And take the word susot, meaning mares or female horses. You would say susotai, meaning my female horses. And this is what this book gets into about the masculine, sus, for instance, and the feminine, susa. Sus becoming susim, susa becoming susot, and how you show my, yours, his, hers, and theirs, and both in the masculine aspect of the noun and the feminine aspect and the singular and the plural of such. This is what this book gets into. Okay, let us continue on, brothers and sisters. Hebrew is Easy, Volume 5. This book explains how the greetings are expressed in Hebrew. Shalom, Toda, Ein Dabar, Bebach Kwasha, Na, Lo Ba'aya. The regular conversations that family members have. Tamshit, Padal, Teba'er. The matter of how I have, I had, I will have too are explained. Yeshli, I have. Hayali, I had. Yishyetli, I will have. The numbers too are explained. Echad, Shanayim, Shalosh. Let's start over. Echad, Shanayim, Shalosha. Arba'a, Kamisha. Sheba, Shemona, Tisha, Asara. Akat, Shatayim, Shalosh. Arba, Kamesh, Shesh, Sheba, Shemone, Tisha, Asar. That's what this gets into for edification purposes. Let us go on to the next part, if we will. Hebrew is Easy, Volume 6. This book is dedicated to the memory, meaning the memory, may she rest in peace, of my mother. This book explains how the letter Nun is used as a prefix. You find the letter Nun used as a prefix when dealing with the future tense of a word. Halak in root means to go. You have Nelek, we will go. The book too explains how the Nif'al stem, second stem in Hebrew verbs work. So take the word Shamar, as we have before, which is in a qual stem. If you put that within, brothers and sisters, the Nif'al stem, Shamar, meaning to watch, will become Nishmar, which means to be watched. Hadabar, the thing. Ze dabar, this is a thing. Hadabar haze, this thing. Hadabar haze nishmar, this thing is watched. So this book gets into that particular case. It also explains how my family in particular came into the understanding of being Israelites. All right, let's go on, brothers and sisters. Egypt talk and writing. Did the Torah come from Tameri? This book explains that the Bible, namely the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, are not a copy of the Egyptian culture. The book examines the claims made by many scholars, and the author, using both biblical and Egyptian writings, along with secular sources, shows that the Torah is not from Egyptian culture. The book also explains the history of the Israelites in the Exodus. So, brothers and sisters, that is what that particular book gets into. I want to, though I didn't show in the PowerPoint, take out the time in respect and read the table of contents of the book itself, if we will, brothers and sisters. All right? The table of contents of that book is as follows. Giving honor to the Most High. Introduction, Joseph and Dynasty 12. Chapter 2, dispelling some misunderstandings and lies. Chapter 3, debates in Israelite perception. Chapter 4, recap and synopsis. Chapter 5, Israel is not from Isis, Ra, and El. Chapter 6, history to be noted and understood. Chapter 7, questions posed to brothers and sisters. Chapter 8, a Hebrew speaks on Black history. Chapter 9, Egyptians, Israelites, and Greeks. Chapter 10, in a question form, Torah comes from Ma'at? Question mark. Chapter 11, pictures and notes. Chapter 12, afterward and conclusion. Chapter 13, a list of videos for further information. Chapter 14, acknowledgments. Chapter 15, the bibliography. Chapter 16, appendixes, memes discussed, pharaohs who were never found, fertility, notes from a debate. And that, brothers and sisters, is the table of contents of this particular book here. Let us go on to the next part. Deuteronomy 28, verses 15 through 68. History untold to the masses. This book explains the history of the people who eventually became the Israelites. It explains how the Israelite culture, the Torah, shows one to be accountable. The verses of Deuteronomy 28 is explained in detail and how it relates to the ancient Israelites and modern Israelites, the so-called blacks. The book refutes the claim that the Egypt by ships was fulfilled in the era of Titus of Rome. The table of contents for this book, I will read here. Introduction, Brief History of Israel, Chapter 2, From Sumer to America. Chapter 3, Brief History of Israel, Part 2. Chapter 4, Deuteronomy 28, 15 to 68. Chapter 5, 12 tribe chart. Chapter 6, extra notes on the subject of history. Appendix A, From Sumer to America, Part 2. Appendix B, Deuteronomy 28:68 extended. Bibliography and acknowledgments, pictures relating to the chapters. And that is what that book, Deuteronomy 28:15 to 68, discusses. Next slide. From Assyria to America, the 12 tribes are in derision. This book explains the history of the Israelites from the era of being in Egypt, the Exodus, the external writings supporting the biblical narrative. The book explains the sad subsequent captivities of the Israelites, from the Assyrians to the Americans. All right. The table of contents for this book is as follows. Introduction, From Egypt to America. Chapter 2, From Avaris to Alabama. Chapter 3, The Romans and the Israelites. Chapter 4, How to Teach Deuteronomy 28. Chapter 5, From Ghana to Georgia. Chapter 6, From Dahomey to Delaware. Chapter 7, From Nigeria to Niagara. Chapter 8, From Madagascar to Manhattan. Now let's understand what we're looking at here. Chapter 5, it says from Ghana to Georgia. The point in that is to show the reality of the sad matter of what happened during the Atlantic slave trade. It talks about the Akan people. It talks about the Ashanti people who descend from the Akan people. It talks about the Fanti people. It talks too, brothers and sisters, about the Ashanti that went over to what we call Jamaica of today. It talks about the Maroons in Jamaica by the name of Asitareni, as in to say Brazil, that is. It talks about Ganga Zumba, who was in Brazil. It talks about Zumbi dos Palmares, brothers and sisters, about the Maroon leaders called the Quilombos that were in Brazil. It talks about Leonard Parkinson, who was one of the Maroon leaders in Jamaica. It talks about Daddy Sharp, as he was called, or Sharp, as he was called in Jamaica, while he was doing what he was doing, going against the British, if we will, while at the same token, Nat Turner was doing what he was doing against American imperialism and its slavery on our people. So that's what this book talks about. It also, brothers and sisters, as stated, gets into prophecy as well. Another chapter to point out in this is chapter 8, where it says from Madagascar to Manhattan. A lot of people may not know that there were slave ships that came from Eastern Africa by the Portuguese and went to Manhattan in the 1830s. I emphasize again, in the 1830s. We must remember Thomas Jefferson made the international slave trade illegal in 1807. So how are the Portuguese bringing people into Manhattan in the 1830s? Because America could care less about their leaders once it comes down to their rules and regulations. We knew even look at it like that. And mind you, as this book points out, Thomas Jefferson had over 500-600 slaves. So much for morality, if we will. The house that you see on the backside of the nickel is Thomas Jefferson House in Monticello, New York. New York was a slave state until the 1820s. This book gets into that in that chapter called From Madagascar to Manhattan. So, brothers and sisters, that's something we want to point out for reference purposes. The next slide, please. From Assyria to America, part 2. What, brothers and sisters, that book gets into? is this. This book explains that the prophecy of Genesis 15 is not in reference to America or the Western Hemisphere. This book explains how the Hamite culture was pushed on the true house of Israel, along with the ideologies of Islam and Christianity. This book explains too, in pictorial format, the history of the Israelites. This is too a discussion. There is too, a discussion on the tribe of Dan and the nation of Edom. So, brothers and sisters, this is something we want to point out in that particular book, if we will. The table of contents for such is as follows. The matter of Genesis 15 and 1619, they date. The matter with Egypt, from Assyria to America, part 2. The matter of history and pictures. The name, meaning the holy name. The tribe of Dan. From Angola to Arkansas. Why is Mizraim not Egypt? The matter with the Edomites. And that, brothers and sisters, is the table of contents of this particular book, From Assyria to America, part 2. All right. Let's go on, if we will, to the next slide. I see the comments in there. Shout out to the sister Sarah Michaela from the house of Judah. Shalom. And Marcia Yisrael. Shalom to you too. Thank you for joining on and commenting. Israelite history as it relates to the world. This book explains from a biblical perspective the history of the book of Exodus. The book too explains how Israelites are shown in archaeology. The book too explains the history of the Israelites in northern Africa and how the Spaniards knew they were taking the Israelites into captivity. This book too addresses the matter of the existence of the slave ships. So the table of contents of this book, brothers and sisters, is as follows. Introduction. Israelites in archaeology. The book of Exodus, chapters 1 through 15, explained. Hebrew presents Black history. Diaspora of the Israelites. Teaching on Black history / sad. A timeline for those interested. Appendix. Israel from Assyria to America. Appendix 2. Egypt by ships. What that Appendix 2 gets into is to show in linguistics, Mizraim, from the word Mazor, from the word Mazer, from the word Zur, from the word Zar. What is the prefix, the interjection, and the suffixes of what became the word known as Mizraim? There is a part in this book I want to read that we see here. All right. Jews first settled in a country known as Tripoli, but the celebrated Arabian historian Ibn Khaldun asserts that the Nefosi, an ancient tribe of the Lo'uata, the Libyans of antiquity, themselves professed Judaism, a fact which had, he asserts, hitherto been unrecorded by Jewish historians. There is an old tradition among the nomadic tribes of Tunisia that the Jews settled in the country before the destruction of the first temple. Now, the first temple is talking about the temple that Solomon had. So if there's already a tradition in Tunisia that Jews, we understand as Israelites, even from the northern or southern kingdom later on, if they settled in Tunisia before the destruction of the first temple, that means during the time before the prophet Zechariah in the Old Testament, there were Israelites in Tunisia. Let's go on. There can be little doubt that a colony of Jews existed in Carthage soon after building of the city. It is impossible, however, even to conjecture what the Jewish population of Carthage may have been when that renowned city and republic challenged the Roman Empire for the mastership of the world. In recent times, a Jewish necropolis with many inscriptions in Latin and Hebrew have been discovered to the north of the site of the city, near the hill Gamot. And although this ancient rock-hewn cemetery only contains about 200 tombs, there may have been other Jewish burying places in the vicinity. So that right there is part of the book that's there, Israelite history as it relates to the world. So, brothers and sisters, these are things we want to point out for edification purposes. All right? Let's go on, if we will, to the next part. Now, this is the most controversial book that I wrote. And I know that there are many Israelites who would be deemed as messianic. The purpose in this book is to explain our stance as Old Testament based Israelites. This book explains why there are Old Testament based Israelites. The book explains the matter of the Old Testament prophecies that are said to be a Jesus. While knowing this is a very controversial subject, the author explains the matter of what a Messiah is in Hebrew thought. The book also explains how Paul did not go to teach Israelites, but rather taught of Israelites. That's what this book gets into for reason and purposes. The table of contents for this book is as follows. Introduction, Old Testament Israelite stance. Chapter 2, the matter of sacrifices. What about the lamb? Chapter 3, Jeremiah 31, the matter of the covenant. Chapter 4, Isaiah 7, Emmanuel and the Assyrians. Chapter 5, Deuteronomy 18, a prophet who succeeded Moses. Chapter 6, Old Testament-based Israelites respond. Chapter 7, said prophecies of Jesus explained. Chapter 8, which is the most controversial chapter of this controversial book, Jesus and Paul versus Moses and Solomon. Now, in that chapter called Jesus and Paul versus Moses and Solomon, brothers and sisters, Israelite culture did have divorce. In Matthew the 19th chapter, it says that Moses, for the hardness of your hearts, permitted you to divorce your wives. Such is not the case when you read Deuteronomy 24. Brothers and sisters, in the New Testament, and this is no disrespect intended, but we want to point this out to have Israel at large understand where we're coming from. In 1 Corinthians chapter 7 through chapter 9, the Apostle Paul is noted for saying, if you cannot refrain, it is better to marry than to burn. So if you can't refrain from being a whore, male or female, it is better to marry than to say burn with passion. Solomon stated in Proverbs, he who conquers his spirit is greater than he who conquers a city. So in Israel culture, you don't marry because you're burning. It says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains the favor of the Most High. In the book of Proverbs, Paul, who was single, said that he wished that all men were as himself, single. This is what the chapter 8 gets into when it says Jesus and Paul versus Moses and Solomon. We understand that this book is controversial. Let us go on to the next slide. Shalom. Much respect to the house of Yisrael. Check out the following YouTube channels on the following dates to get lessons and information. Friday nights at 9 p.m. A history class based on biblical studies. That is on channel Mora Yeshaya History Lessons. All right. On Saturday, Sabbath, at 2 p.m., live Hebrew classes. Lessons on how to learn to speak Hebrew. On Saturday nights at 9 p.m., a presentation on the scriptures. One chapter a lesson. More Yeshaya Torah lessons. The contact telephone number, 908 587 4841. 908 587 4841. All right, I'm putting it inside of the chat there. This was going to start Friday nights at 9 o'clock, Shabbat during the day at 2 p.m., and after Shabbat at 9 p.m., starting in April. All right? There are Israelites such as myself that will be, during the last week of March, be in the involvement of the Feast of Unleavened Bread following Passover. So this scheduled set of classes will begin in April, all right, on those particular channels. Again, the channels are More Yeshaya history lessons, More Yeshaya Hebrew lessons, and More Yeshaya Torah lessons. Let's go on, if you will, to the next slide. Shalom to those who hear this. Shalom. For those who are interested in the books, the Hebrew books are $8 each. The history and theology books are $15 each. They are available on Amazon.com. One can also acquire the books by direct payment to Zelle, Zelle. The number is 732-527-6095. 732-527-6095. That's the Zelle. Cash App. The information, $ Frank Son, the number 1, $ FRANKSSON, the number 1. That's the Cash App. PayPal. The address for it is hkashub@yahoo.com. HKASHUB@yahoo.com. All right? So just want to point that out for reference purposes. Let's go on to the next slide. The information on how to contact me. I also do Hebrew classes for free. Those who are interested. For those who are interested, one can email me at yyisrael22@yahoo.com. That's yyisrael, the number 22@yahoo.com. One can text or call me at the number already stated. That is 908-587-4841. All right? That is, again, 908-587-4841. Shown on purpose in different color format so it stands out. One can subscribe to the YouTube channels. More Yeshaya Torah lessons, this channel here, please subscribe. More Yeshaya Old Testament, More Yeshaya Hebrew lessons. So we just want to put this out there for those who are interested. Next slide. Afterward, blessed be the Most High, the Creator, who guided me to write books. May He cause us all to learn, be inspired, to have a goal and accomplish it. Whatever your inspiration is based on in righteousness, may the Creator bless it. Put the necessary work in. May it be, as Moses was seen, going to the burning bush, that the Most High will have one appointed to accomplish a mission. So that's the afterword. Showing the much respect. In giving on a human level due respect, my mother, Gaveret Nifla'ah, and my father, F, standing for Frank Hutchinson, may they rest in peace. My teachers, More Yosef, Adon Yishai, Rabbi Yeshurun, More Tibak, Adon Aharon Ben Zebulun, Adon Dareshiel, Kohen Lewi, Kohen Malkiel, Chief Simeon, Chief of Chief Naphtali, More Mishael, More Hoshea, Imam Matina, may the Creator rest their souls. My teachers, More Yehotzedek, Kohen Mikael, Nasi Kamul, may they be blessed. My female teachers, Gaveret Miriam, Ima Tamikia, Gaveret Shalomi, Gaveret Hemdiel, may they be blessed. And of course, Ima Naami. Ima Naami is one of the people who also is part of the congregation Shomrei Habrit. All right, I'm going to type that in here. Shomrei Habrit. That's another YouTube channel operated by the brother Morde Yiftach. Subscribe to that channel as well. Let's go into the next slide. Danite Publications. Shown again here, Hebrew is Easy, Volume 1, Hebrew Basics from Aleph to Shamal. Now, I put the table of contents of this book here on this flyer. The logo here is Danite Publications. For those who are lovers of Black history, this book details the history and migration of the Israelites from the era of the Hebrews, aka the Habiru, in Egypt/Sematawi, to the Hebrews/African Americans in the United States. The author cites authors and historians for reasonable purposes. All right? Amazon.com/author/Vince History. I'm going to put that here. Amazon.com/author/Vince History. Now, when you put that in your computer, the books in regards with history will come up. All right? That's the link for that on Amazon. Let's go on, if you will, to the next slide. Thank you for the time. Notes, giving honor to the Most High. To become an author is not hard. Pick the subject, cite it, and write a draft. The first draft may seem the most difficult, but when it is completed, one feels a great accomplishment. The publishing company I deal with is called KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. They took over the company called Create Space. There are other independent publishing companies. Some publishing companies, Fulton Books, Book Baby, Fiverr, Lulu, Outskirts Press, Akashic Books, C&R Press, 48-Hour Books. What you're looking at on the right-hand side is a magazine used by many authors to get their books put inside of a magazine for advertisement purposes that goes internationally. It's called Poets and Writers. All right. So you can go to poetsandwriters.com and you can begin to see how many authors actually exist. There are thousands, literally, but they advertise for some for a very good price if you want to get your book shown inside of that magazine. All right. So you may want to go to Poets and Writers magazine. All right. Just want to show that for reason and purposes. The books to be released before May 2021. Hebrew is Easy, Volume 7, and Hebrew is Easy, Volume 8. These two books are the books which will be available before May 2021, Creator willing. The Hebrew is Easy, Volume 7, deals with the verbs in the nif'al, pl, and the hif'il stem. Hebrew is Easy, Volume 8, will deal with the hitpa'el stem and conversation. Of course, there will be more to each book for those who know and bought the other books. All right, next slide. Brew News, the Light Hebrew Magazine. The Light Hebrew Magazine is a monthly magazine that advertises businesses. They advertised my book and they advertised the businesses of others. They are one of the largest promoters we Israelites have online for businesses. So you can go to Brew News Magazine at yahoo.com. BREWSMAGAZINE at yahoo.com. All right. And you can contact them and talk about the business from that particular case. So let's just look at this. You have here an international magazine, and they do show a lot of our people or melanated people in that, as far as who are authors in that magazine, by the way. And then you have the Israelite, knowledgeable Israelite. So we want to sit there and get our information out there for advertisement purposes. All right. Next slide. Hint Magazine by Tyrone Webb. This is a magazine that comes out 4 times a year. It is produced by Tyrone Webb. In it are articles on subjects ranging from family structure to history to politics. I suggest people support this magazine. Go to 12 Tribes 1954 at gmail.com. That is the number 1, the number 2. TRIBES, the number 1954 at gmail.com. All right. So that's something we want to point out. Hint Magazine, Hebrew Israelite Nation Times. It has articles that stated from history to family structure to politics. All right. So let's go on, if you will, to the next slide. How to understand Hebrew basics. This is the Hebrew ebook. It is on Amazon.com. The price is $5. The book covers the alphabet and vowels and how Hebrew is read by combining both. The book also explains that Hebrew is a language connected to African and Asian languages. Now, when we say Asian, we're talking about Western Asia. All right. So we just want to point that out. From Avaris to Alabama. This is the From Avaris to Alabama ebook. This book is available on Amazon. The price is $5. The topics covered show the evidence of the Israelites as slaves in Egypt and the fact the slaves in Alabama were descended from those slaves. So when it says from Avaris, which was in ancient Egypt, to Alabama, which is in modern America, this book gets into the Israelites who were enslaved in Egypt were the ancestors of the people who were enslaved in Alabama. From Avaris to Alabama, the journey of the Hebrews. Let's go on to the next slide. The Messianic shutdown. Now, why was I comfortable to even put it in that matter? The Most High gave us the name Israel. So Israel being the wife of the Most High, we don't name ourselves after any man. And Israel being the wife of the Most High, in Israel, you don't do polyandry. So you can't have 2 husbands. So if the Most High Yah is the husband of Israel, then that is who name we go after in the name he gave our ancestor, Jacob. That is. This is the Messianic Shutdown ebook. This is available on Amazon. The price of it is $5. The book explains that there must be a response from the Old Testament Israelites, and it is presented in this, as stated, no disrespect intended. All right? Let the book speak. That's what this is about. All right? So whether or not people say you got the Caesar Borgia or the one or many black images of Yeshua, what has happened is that Israelites struggle sometimes saying Israel is the son of the Most High because they feel that they quote denying Christ at that point. Israelites struggle sometimes say in relationships because they know that it may be toxic, heaven forbid, but the New Testament will tell you you're not to divorce. So these are things that, as stated, no disrespect intended, we want to present and show why we state what we state. Next slide, please. Deuteronomy 28 ebook, free. This is the Deuteronomy 28 ebook. This book is on Amazon. This book is free to read. This book explains in 77 pages that the Israelites, due to disobedience, went into several captivities. And the last one, America, is what it focuses on. So, brothers and sisters, this concludes this presentation. Giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. All right? We want to, brothers and sisters, for those who want any of this directly, you can go to Zelle. The number in it is 732-527-6095. Cash App. The information is $ Frankson1. Frankson, the number 1. $ FRANKSSON1. PayPal. The address for it is hkashub@yahoo.com. I can be reached at by text or call 908-587-4841. As stated also, brothers and sisters, come the month of April, we're going to have more direct live back-to-back teachings. One being Friday night, one being Saturday, Shabbat during the day, and one being after the Shabbat at 9 p.m. All right? So, brothers and sisters, in closing out, giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. Shalom. Giving a shout out again to the people who did take the time to comment. Marcia Yisrael and the sister Sarai Michaela from the house of Judah. Peace to you all and everyone else who subscribed to the channel, watched it. I am open to constructive criticism. Shalom. Most High bless.